Good morning, students. Welcome to your English class. Today, we would be doing a new chapter from your English reader, Honeydew. The chapter's name is A Visit to Cambridge. Have you ever thought of this word differently abled people? Why are they called so? They are called differently abled because though they are not normal like us, they have certain abilities which are much higher than the so called normal people. They have some mental or physical abilities which are stronger than us. Students, it gives me immense pleasure to teach this lesson to you all. It's about a legendary scientist. You all must be aware of this scientist, Stephen Hawking. The story is written by Firdaus Kang, as he was also another brave heart. Let's start this lesson, but before that, let's have some few words about the author. Firdaus Kang. He was born on 1960 in Bombay. He's an Indian writer and an actor who lives in London. He has written novels like Trying to Grow. It is a semi-autobiographical novel set in India. He has also written a travel book called Heaven on Wheels, and this chapter is taken from the book Heaven on Wheels. In the book, it is all about his experiences in the United Kingdom. Trying to Grow was another novel that Firdaus Kang had written, and this novel turned into a fictional movie named Sixth Happiness, for which Kang wrote the screenplay and he also acted in that movie. Let's know a little more of Firdaus Kang. He was born with brittle bones, because of which he had suffered multiple fractures when he was small. Later, he tried and adjusted beautifully with his disability, thus becoming inspiration to young minds. And now let's summarize the chapter. But before that, let us learn something more about this inspirational personality, Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking was a world famous theoretical physicist. He died at the age of 76. He was a great scientist and an extraordinary man whose work and legacy will live on for many years. His courage and persistence with his brilliance and humor inspire people across the world. He was the most recognizable scientist of our age. In fact, his genre defining book called A Brief History of Time has sold more than 100 million copies since its publication in 1988 and has been translated in more than 35 languages. This lesson gives us a glimpse of the meeting between Firdaus Kanga and Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, being one of the greatest scientists, suffered from a form of paralysis that confined him to a wheelchair and allowed him to speak only by punching buttons on the computer, which speaks for him in a machine-like voice. Both these men moved around in wheelchair. It was during Firdaus Kang's visit to Cambridge that they met each other. The lesson begins with Firdaus Kang taking a walking tour through Cambridge. During this tour, his guide mentions that the famous astrophysicist Stephen Hawking lived there. The author had completely forgotten about this, and just as his tour ended, he went to a phone booth to contact him. He was able to talk to Hawking's assistant and explain to him that he had come all the way from India on a wheelchair. The assistant allowed him half an hour with the scientist, that is from 3:30 to 4. The author was surprised to see that a mission was supporting Stephen Hawking's body. However, he composed himself to ask some questions. On being asked about his courage, that is Stephen Hawking's courage, Stephen Hawking replied that he had no other option than to be brave and accept his situation. He said that he was amused to see that people patronized him. When the author asked him that did he feel annoyed when people like him disturbed him, he replied yes with a smile. During the interview, Hawking appeared to be the most beautiful man in the world to the author. The author also questioned him that it that due to this disability, Hawking is not able to see humility and kindness in the world. Hawking agreed to this with the author. Then the author asked Stephen if he would like to give a piece of advice to other differently abled people, which would help make life a little easier for them. Stephen said that they should focus on their strength and what they are good at. According to Stephen, things like Olympics for the differently abled are a waste of time. The author got the gist of what Stephen meant because he had spent years learning to play a Spanish guitar, which was larger than his own size, and how he unstringed it one night very happily. The 30 minutes came to an end, and the author smiled as he said, "I think I have annoyed you enough," and continued to thank him for his time, but was interrupted by Stephen, who instead asked him to stay. He waited for Stephen to say something next, and he offered the author some tea and a chance to show his garden. Even though the garden was as big as a park, Stephen showed him every inch and corner of it on his motorized wheelchair. The author tried not to come in his way. They couldn't converse a lot during that time as the letters on Stephen's screen disappeared in a glare. It felt as if the sun had made Stephen silent. An hour passed and it was time to leave. The author did not know what to do as he left, as he could not kiss him or cry either. Thus, he touched his shoulder and went out into the summer evening in his wheelchair. Later, the author expressed how glancing at Stephen was like looking at his bravest self, the one he was moving towards and the one he had believed in for so many years. He was well aware that his journey was over for now in England. That's all for now, children. I want you to read the chapter and be more inspired by Stephen Hawking, and also write the question answers, which I would be sharing in the group. That's all for now, children. Have a good day. See you soon in my next class. Until then, bye.